cars heading away on the final formation lap here in Marrakesh, led by James Thompson. Hugo Valente on the outside the front row, ahead of Ted Björk and Tom Coronel. And Rob Huff starts 10th.
Just letting Norby back past. I think he's stormed off the practice start there. Steering wheel full of buttons, just making sure they're all in the right place. So tight round here, so difficult to see anything. Hopefully we can get around the first race without any problems. Race 2 obviously very important for us as a team. 1, 2, 3 on the grid, fantastic achievement, and we need to capitalise on that in race 2. I have to say, quite an interesting little circuit we've got here in Marrakesh now. So tight and twisty. It used to be just flat out, and whoever was bravest through the fast chicanes would either have a very big crash or be winner chicken dinner for the day. And this has totally changed things around. Really quite an interesting little track. So many different tarmac changes. You can hear bumps taking off all over the place. Braking zones very difficult. Turn 1, we've got about 8 different surfaces. So it's going to be an interesting one. Hold tight and enjoy. Cheers, guys.
Hold tight and enjoy, everybody on the grid as well. Thank you, Rob Huff. And it's in the same place. The pit lane is in the same place. They go the opposite direction past the pits buildings here, but it is a totally different track. Can't emphasize enough. Yeah. It's almost like going back to Monza, and instead of being on the normal road circuit, suddenly we're on the old banked oval. You know, it's the same place, but it's utterly different, and this is a very, very different nature track. It's corners 11 to 12 here. I mean, look how narrow it is.
Yeah, and as Rob said there, there's a lot of surface changes. Turn 1 has 8 different surfaces there, whether it's painted lines, new tarmac, old tarmac, white lines, you know, the painted over lines. You can see a little bit here as they're coming onto the grid, but that it is throwing a bit of a spanner in the works, and it's making things interesting anyway, shall we say, and quite a lot of undulation as well, which we didn't see in the old circuit.
Right, all bets are off here in Marrakesh. James Thompson on pole in the black Chevrolet. Alongside him, Hugo Valente in the yellow LADA. Second on the second row of the grid, the blue Volvo, Ted Björk. Then Tom Coronel in the yellow Chevrolet. And then, maybe worryingly for the front runners, Ivan Muller 5th on the right of your picture, driver's left. And he will be desperately looking to pick up places. The green flag waves, the red lights are on. 21 laps of the Marrakesh circuit. Away we go. Square start for the front runners, but look at Muller immediately trying to get by Ted Björk, who didn't get away quickly. And down the outside, Hugo Valente trying to come around Thompson, but he won't want to leave the door open for Coronel, who's 3rd. Björk in 4th. Katzberg trying to go around the outside, and Lopez going around the outside of Muller. Lopez from 7th, Muller from 5th, and has Lopez got in front? Yes, he has. That's Lopez. And this is coming up to the turn 3, which is a right-hander, and Thompson fired off. The race leader fired off backwards. Now, was that from behind with Coronel or Valente? Lopez is coming through, and Thiago Montero is going to have to be very careful trying to make progress behind Ivan Muller. Over the curbs goes Katzberg, out of 3rd, down to 4th place.
That was unlucky from Thompson. It certainly looked like he got a biff from the back, and looking at the front of Valente's car, that's obviously where it's come from. But
well,
was he hit as well?
Can't see a mark, or was it Coronel? Because Valente looked like he was going wide. Björk has gone off, and so has Katzberg. And so suddenly, Lopez is 3rd. Lopez and Muller are 3rd and 4th, and we are in the first of 21 laps. We're not even halfway round. This could be a Citroën romp. Valente and Coronel must get away, and get away fast. Montero is right behind Muller. And then behind him, Norby, and behind him, Rob Huff. So we've lost 4 of our top 6 cars already. Only first, 2nd and 4th place starters, Valente and Coronel.
Yeah, Valente has definitely got damage on the front there, but he could have been hit from the back from Coronel as well. We really don't know until we see a replay of that, but Thompson, the unfortunate loser in that situation.
So Tomo's wait for a World Touring Car win will have to carry on. See, Tom Chilton's been thumped from behind on the right rear, but then as they check up into the braking area, this is the fast corner 2, almost flat out, and then suddenly braking and changing direction into corner 3, that hard left-hander, and that's where it all went wrong on the opening lap for Thompson. Thompson is going again, so is Ted Björk and Nicky Katzberg, and they are out the back. Ferenc Fitzger there in the background, the green and grey car. He is in 14th, and you just saw a glimpse of Tomo and the others coming back, 15th, 16th, 17th.
Yeah, like you say, Martin, it's one of those things that these big stop, big braking areas, early laps, you've got no visibility in it. Thompson will have been deliberately trying to check people up a little bit behind them to keep them busy, to give him a little bit of a break, and unfortunately everyone's run into each other.
Well, the problem is he'll have just been trying to survive the opening lap in front, but it could come from 3 or 4 cars back. We've seen it before where somebody misses their braking point, 4 or 5 cars back in the pack, dunk, dunk, dunk like dominoes, and eventually the guy at the front gets fired out of bed. Lopez, fastest first sector, fastest second sector, as he closes up on the race leaders. Stewards will look at the incident between car 7, Valente, and car 15, Thompson. That'll be after the race. I won't actually, I'm sure they'll look at the tape now. We haven't seen a replay yet. Once the race settles down a fraction, we might. Huff behind Tarquini, who made a good start from 11th to get to 7th. Gabrielli always starts well in these front drive cars, always has. Lopez fastest lap, and then Muller behind him even quicker, 23.94 already. Huff pushing up behind Tarquini. Oh, he's got a little run going down the inside. Yeah, and down into the chicane. Has he though?
Yeah.
Does Tarquini leave enough room? He didn't want to. Jumps the chicane. He's going to give Rob the place. He's not going to give Rob the place. This is really dangerous. He doesn't have to. It's Gabrielli. This is really dangerous for Huff. He cannot afford to get into a banging match with Tarquini, who's got nothing to lose.
Yeah, exactly. As Rob alluded to in the warm-up there, he has to make sure his car's in good nick for race 2. And getting into a wheel banging session with Tarquini is definitely not in his interest.
And Gabrielli, in the end, gave him the place, or allowed him to take the place. Drive through for Valente, the race leader, which leaves Coronel ahead of the 2 Citroëns. It's all playing out superbly well for José María López, who has not won an opening race this year, but has 3 main race victories in 3 weekends. So Valente will get a drive through for cannoning Thompson out of the lead. Still haven't seen the footage, so we'll have to take the stewards' decision on that.
Yeah, looking at the front of... Oh, here we go.
Well, this is not the incident, this is the start. We don't want to see this. We want to see what happened at turn 3, where Thompson ended up going backwards. Valente there gets in. Björk gets picked up by Lopez, but because he didn't get turned around. This is Pachito's camera. Is that Ivan's camera? Is Pachito on our left? Yeah, that's Ivan's camera, so... Ooh, look at that. Okay, so there's Pachito going down the inside. And I think actually it was Ivan who made contact with the Volvo, trying to shut the door on the Citroën. Look at the banging going on between them.
Yeah, there's no love lost. No, I don't think so.
Much. Oh, goodness. So somebody went straight into the back of Huffy. And again, that's the only view we have of that, I'm afraid. That's the view we needed.
Yeah, definitely bank right.
Now, we've got a rear-facing camera, I think, on Valente's car as well. And he's braking in replay and taking out the Volvo of Ted Björk. So Volvo's hopes of a podium and Tomo's hopes of a win, along with Valente's hopes of a win, have all gone west.
Yeah, Valente didn't get hit from behind, I don't think. There was from one of the side angles you could see there was... Coronel was the next nearest car. It looked like Valente was hanging out right and looking like he was going to try and cut back later in the corner, but just obviously missed his braking point, or wasn't expecting Tomo to brake where he was. But we were talking to James earlier, and he was saying that's a good place to, one of the good potential overtaking places. So he did say that ideally you want to sit the car on the apex and back people up behind, but definitely wasn't Tomo's fault though.
He was the innocent victim, I'm afraid. So this is lap 5 at 21. And if there are only a couple of overtaking opportunities, if you get 21 shots at them, that's better than only having 5 or 6 shots at them, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
On board with Fredrik Ekblom, Volvo driver, now up to 11th place, despite the fact that he started in 12th, 13th, didn't he? 13th place. He is the lead Volvo. And the incident between 10 and 62, that's Ted Björk and Nicky Katzberg. That'll be investigated. I'm afraid that Nicky is going to end up serving a penalty for that as well. So that'll be drive-throughs, I imagine, for both of the LADAs.
There are a lot of drive-throughs being handed out this season, aren't there, compared to normal?
Well, those two, I think, you are going to have trouble arguing with.
Yeah.
Drive-throughs for missing a chicane in the wet and not picking up any places, those are the sort of drive-throughs, I'm afraid, that make Stewart's decisions a bit risible. So Valente leads. Now he was shown a drive-through, or awarded a drive-through penalty 2 laps ago. He must come in, I think, at the end of this lap. This will be the 3rd lap after it was announced. On board with Mehdi Benani, teammate Tom Chilton right in front. They're 9th and 10th, so both in the points. And for Benani now, it's the old Andy Prio rule. 1 point is better than no points at all. 2 is better than 1. Any point you can take. And if it means dive bombing your teammate in the last corner on the last lap, dive bomb him, because you don't want to be sitting there applauding somebody else taking the World Championship crown just because you were too polite to him.
Yeah, and it's too early in the season for there to be anything like team orders. I'm sure Chilton won't be asked to move out of the way or anything like that, because it's, at the end of the day, they're independents and it's down to them. But
well, Tom's only 7th in the Drivers' Championship, and Mehdi is 3rd. And in the teams in the Yokohama Trophy, they're 1st and 2nd. But again, Mehdi has got a 12-point advantage. Tom won't want to let him get by, because Tom's big deal is to try and win that WTCC Trophy this year. However, so our race leader still Hugo Valente, but he's kind of the imaginary race leader, if you like. Tom Coronel under real pressure from Lopez and Moulay, because Valente must go into the pits now. He has. Valente's gone in for his drive-through. Tom Coronel leads across the line. And there's Victoire looking very Victorian. José María López, fiancé. And Lopez now starts in the middle for the main race.
Can Coronel hold these two off, do you think? That's the big one, isn't it? But looking at his lap times, he's about 0.4 of a second slower on that previous lap, but we know Coronel's a good defender and he can make that Chevy pretty damn wide.
It's going to be a long 14 laps, isn't it? A really long 14 laps. Brakes are under pressure, we know that here. The Citroën, more modern, more sophisticated, probably more sophisticated aero for cooling as well, although the RML Chevrolet package was always blinding when it came to aerodynamics. But it is about whose car treats its tyres best, and maybe now that little change that we heard Lopez talking to his engineer about on the grid, just softening off the front of the car a little, may help preserve his tyre, because less wheel spin, more actual physical contact with the road will stop it overheating at quite the rate that it might have done previously.
Well, tyre deg's been pretty low around here. It used to be pretty much non-existent, but even on this new layout there are a couple of faster corners than there used to be, but it's definitely on the lower side for a race circuit. But the thing that Lopez needs to do, he's comfortable there really. Moulay needs to get onto his tail, then that forces Lopez to make a move on Coronel, which then puts the risk back in. But really, if you're sat there as Lopez, you're quite happy to sit there as long as Muller's not causing you too much of a headache behind.
Yes, as long as he can keep Moulay bottled up, he'll take 2nd if he has to. You're absolutely right. Shot in the garage, ROIAL Motorsport's team principal, Roberto Ravaglia, the 1987 World Touring Car champion for BMW. And just before that, in the Citroën garage, you saw the distinctive features of Nicolas Tot. So I'm not sure if he manages Lopez, but I was interested to see him in the paddock yesterday. Didn't get a chance to catch up with him, but certainly he's in the Citroën garage at the moment, watching progress. And as you say, Lopez, as long as he keeps Moulay bottled up behind, Coronel's not necessarily going to be a championship rival. He knows that Thiago is back in 4th, so behind Moulay as well, and Benani is back in 9th, so the team will be updating him, because at the moment, Pachito is looking to extend his championship lead rather than lose ground, which is a bit of a golden card, really, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? But if you're sat there as the Citroën boss, would you try and influence it by asking Moulay not to push too hard, or would you? No. And if you're Moulay, would you even do that? I don't think so either.
You know, you could be Yves Maton and say, Ivan, let's just settle for 2-3, and then you can hope that that might happen. But Ivan didn't become a full-time world champion by settling for things. And again, look behind, and this is the other Citroën team battle, isn't it? This is Sebastian Loeb Racing Run Citroën's teammates Tom Chilton and Mehdi Benani. And Benani has not, at any stage yet, dropped back into the, right, let's have a bit of a relax and think about this. He is just right up behind Chilton, pushing, trying to force the issue. And there's James Thompson's car. That had a pretty significant biff with the tyre stack on the exit of the corner. In fact, you can see a bit of his damaged floor there, can't you?
Yeah, it's really unfortunate for the guys down at All England Motorsport, and Tomo, because they genuinely had a good chance of a race win there, in my opinion. And we know that the Chevy's been mega in the middle sector, which is the long sector. That's where we saw Coronel fastest yesterday in FP2, and that's also where James has been fast as well. So that's the real key. If you can stitch that sector together, 1 and 2 are pretty hard to overtake in. So I think, you know, we could have seen something there, but
what we're seeing is an awful lot of tyre smoke from both Citroëns. You can see Lopez and Muller locking up the unladen rear wheel, much more than Coronel, Montero, Michelis. So the cars around the Citroëns, okay, they've concertinaed up behind Coronel, who's basically defining the pace of everybody else behind him. But the cars behind the Citroëns do seem to be treating their tyres a little bit better. And you can see that Montero's closed up behind Muller. Norby pulling out for a little bit of clear air down the straight. Maybe he's starting to see a few warning signs. This is Katzberg who's in the pits after that incident with Ted Björk. Björk's up to 14th. He's passed Ferenc Fitzger in the Zengo Motorsport car. And Hugo Valente, of course, he's got a position away from also.
Lopez now only 3 tenths behind.
Yeah. But the fast laps on the last time round have all come from Huff, Tarquini and Chilton, because actually the queue behind Coronel, although it's breaking up between Lopez and Muller, is getting longer behind Ivan. So I'm guessing that the little change that Lopez made, that's the difference possibly between those two cars right now. It's not that Thiago's having a stab and Muller's lost time having to defend, because Thiago's not showing his nose.
Oh, that was a big lock there. It was front wheels as well. That was a significant problem almost about to happen, but you managed to save it.
Now, 2 things here. First of all, that won't be helping Pachito's tyres, and he's in the dirty air, the turbulence behind Coronel, so that's more likely to happen frequently rather than less. The other thing is, bear in mind, if you're Pachito, you're leading the World Championship. If you hit Coronel and he goes off, Muller's going to win this race, or Montero is. Yeah. Because you're not, because you're going to get a penalty.
Do you think Coronel will fight him really hard?
Yes.
Yeah?
Coronel will take second if he has to. And if Lopez comes firing it down the inside and it's survive in second or hit the wall, yes, Coronel will survive in second, because he's a realist and he's got sponsors that he has to please, whereas Lopez doesn't.
Yeah.
But right now, I think Coronel feels there is nowhere that Lopez can fire it down the inside. Lopez hasn't had a sniff of a look yet. All he's doing is sitting in the slipstream, destroying his tyres.
And Lopez has everything to lose, as you pointed out. So
everything.
And he's always been a very, very clean driver. So if you are Coronel, you can sit there and probably have a fair amount of confidence. He isn't going to do anything too silly if you will have any silly moves.
Tom Coronel locks up in the lead of the race. Nicky Katzberg's car is in the pits. So too, again, is Hugo Valente. Coronel, big lock-up as he came into corner 10 on the short back straight up to 11 and 12. Lopez, for the first time, almost had an overlap for the leader, but couldn't find anywhere to go around there. That's such a short straight, and this one is equally short. But Coronel really feeling the pressure now. You can see he's moving the car to try and defend ground against Lopez, who again has a look.
The Chevy, you can always see it bouncing slightly in the corner, kind of hops. It's one thing we've seen the Citroën, it's been amazing all weekend. All the curb strikes and all the long radius corners, it seems to settle really nicely.
Muller behind, also looking under pressure suddenly from Thiago Montero. On board with José María López. And that little lunge he had down in the first corner cost him ground, and that will give Tom Coronel another lap where he doesn't have to worry about whether there's a red wing inside him when he turns in. And this is Montero's view of Muller. Gap Lopez to Muller is just hovering around a second. Gap Muller to Montero is hovering around a car length. Thiago's not giving this one up, is he?
No, and
you know, Honda could win the World Championship here against a factory Citroën operation. Montero can see how he could be the driver's champion against Lopez, a 2-time world champion in the best car in the field.
Yeah, but as we said, you know, they've got to make sure they don't compromise their car in this race. We know how strong that Citroën is. We know how hard it is. We know how not desperate Muller is, but we know he's getting pushed into a corner.
Yeah.
Muller's a dangerous guy when he's back in the corner, as we've seen a few times.
Yes,
so
Montero's
got to be really careful. If he's going to stick a move here, it's going to have to be the gratis of Muller, I think.
It's going to have to be absolutely clean. And as you say, I mean, right now they are desperately waiting for the driver in front to commit an unforced error. You know, they're pushing hard from behind, but it's about the driver in front maintaining his focus. In the face of an aggressive bowling attack, the batsman just has to focus 100% on what he's doing, and any tiny little flinch from the car in front opens a gap that may never get shut. Coronel, now Lopez had that little lunge, he got right up behind him. Coronel now nearly a second away. I wonder if Lopez is having to just allow temperatures to calm down a little in his car. He'd been up behind Tom's rear bumper for so long in turbulent air, even the Citroën's cooling system may have been deciding it was getting a little too hot for company.
Yeah, and he doesn't need it, does he? He doesn't have to make that move, and sitting behind him, he'll be in his dirt. Yeah, we saw him locking up. That's starting to get into a risky situation where he can lock up and go straight on or cause some damage or something, so yeah. He doesn't need to be there.
Coronel's got 16 points in the championship. Lopez can afford to allow him to outscore him. The two French drivers, or French and Belgian, Philippe and Demoustier, battling, and Philippe makes that mistake, and that's what we're talking about. The pressure from behind, just being distracted a fraction of a second too long, going into the braking area, bounce over the chicanes, the car understeers wide off the track, and suddenly you've given the place away that you've just spent 40 laps defending.
Only 0.8 of a second between them now. I mean, it has grown significantly. It was down to just under 0.2 before, so it has stretched out a bit. But
Lopez just a fraction quicker, 1/10 of a second quicker than Coronel on that last lap. There's Pauline. Kids are at home. It's been the end of 2 weeks of school holiday. For a less nervous and a more relaxing time here this weekend. Not sure she was expecting to be watching Tommy leading from corner 3 of lap 1 of this race. Obviously, when you start on the opening 2 rows, you've got a chance. But this is not what any of us would have predicted as a podium. Coronel, Lopez, Muller, that would have been a brave gamble, I think.
The Citroën's mega into that corner there, isn't it? Just after, is that turn 10, I think?
That's turn 10, yeah.
Just into turn 10. It's always amazing on the brakes there. It seems to close up all that gap, that almost a second he had. He's almost closed up in that one corner.
And that is the first gear hairpin as well, so they really fire off there unbelievably well. The Citroën's traction, even on this bumpy circuit, is superb, and he is once more right with Coronel. And John Philippi has come in without a wheel. Gives you the size. I tell you what, you always say discs like dinner plates. If you went into a restaurant with a dinner plate the size of the front discs on these cars, you really would be coming out feeling very full.
That one corner, he's taken 0.6 out of Coronel.
Yeah.
Oh, big lock there from Coronel.
Big lock up from Tom, and again, you know, Lopez has got to make sure that he doesn't end up biffing Coronel, because even if he doesn't fire him off, there is potential for damage and overheating in Lopez's car. We've only got another 4 or 5 laps, 6 laps left, haven't we? So, yeah, Lopez he's in a little bit of a tricky situation. The closer he follows, the more it raises the odds of something going wrong that is a little out of his control. He would almost... See, this is trying to take the racing driver out of the racing driver. He would almost be better backing off a couple of car lengths. But you can't, because he's now desperate to try and pass.
Yeah, and while he's on the back of Coronel will start inevitably having to defend a little, which will then push him back into Muller. So it's about managing that gap. He doesn't need to put Coronel under too much pressure, but he also doesn't want to risk having a moment and bumping him.
You're absolutely right, because the more he frustrates Coronel's ability to produce speed, the closer Ivana is going to get. And the one thing that Lopez doesn't want is to bring Muller into play behind him. At the moment, he's master of his own destiny, Lopez, pretty much. If he has a lunge, it's his choice. If he doesn't have a lunge, it's also his choice.
And he's dropped back to 0.6 of a gap between Coronel again, so I wonder if that is now something he's kind of thinking about, and allowing the tyres to have a little breather as well. There's no point pushing too hard. And
tyre temperature, engine temperature, but possibly most critically of all, brake temperature. All the drivers, Coronel took a lot of curb hop there. All the drivers have been saying how hard the brakes are working here. There aren't long enough straights to cool them down, and there are a lot of big stops here. And Moulay again having to weave across the road to try and keep the door closed on Thiago Monteiro in the Honda for third place. And I wonder whether the Citroëns are struggling a little bit more for retardation than their rivals. Again, Moulay has a little lock-up. It's the unladen rear wheel. Really doesn't matter that much if it locks. Lopez quite with Coronel the way he was, but Monteiro is making a mischief of himself behind Ivan.
You can really see the Citroën in those traction zones there. There was a good onboard shot from Monteiro's car, and as soon as Moulay got on the gas, he probably pulled the car length through. Yeah. They've always been super strong in that situation, and that's obviously with maximum success ballast on as well.
Well, Thiago, his wife has gone back to home in Portugal to race in the Wings for Life series of races today, so she's gone off running. Kids are still here though, watching Daddy and hoping that he'll finish on the podium. What does he have to say?
Yeah, Citroën has a very good traction. You can see the near-mid, very good traction they have.
Well, it's that firing off the first gear traction out of turn 10 that renders the back straight sort of impossible for anybody else to do anything about them.
Yeah, it's exactly what we were just saying there as well, wasn't it? You know, he's getting his foot down and he's gone. He's off like a scalded cat on the tin roof, and that doesn't allow you to create an overlap. And we already know how hard it is to pass here anyway. So unless you can do it on the brakes somewhere, you don't really have a chance.
And we've seen with Coronel, haven't we? Even when he gets a clean exit out of 10, Lopez can fire right up behind him. And again, we're down into that section through this sweeping corner 9 and out of turn 10. Lopez again looking for clear air. He's not looking for visibility there because he now knows the track well enough to know what's coming up next. He's looking for clear air, and again that suggests that he is worried about temperatures, probably brake temperatures as much as anything else.
The way the radiator systems work on these cars, they don't have a system like your road car has. They blank off parts of the radiator, but I would find it hard to. Sometimes you'd expect that if you qualified pole and expect to run away that they'd under blanked it, but the fact that we're starting in the middle of the pack. But you're right, he does seem to be making a conscious decision to pull out and get into some clear air.
Well, when you're using the brakes this hard and there is turbulent air stalling in the front of your air duct instead of ramming through and cooling the brakes, then I mean the last thing you want is on a street circuit like this is a pedal that suddenly goes to the floor. Fastest race lap just been sent incidentally by Hugo Valente, who's come back out of the pit lane after stopping for damage or some work on the car at any rate. A 1:23.087. He's the only man inside a 1:24 lap on the track. In fact, that is very nearly a full second quicker than the fastest lap from Tom Coronel, and over a second quicker than either of the Citroëns have managed in the race. Norbert Michelis, again, you see, look at all three Hondas fanning out, looking for fresh air.
So Thiago is trying to attack Muller, so stay close, try to get a position in case he passes Muller.
Alessandro Mariani on the radio saying, okay, if the door is open, we want at least 2 of you to beetle through if we can, if not 3, because of course more Hondas in front of the second Citroën means more championship points for Honda ahead of Citroën.
Yeah, that was Monteiro punched the hole, you scoop the meat situation, wasn't it? That was what he was being told there.
Yeah. Now obviously you don't necessarily want to be right up behind your teammate in case he makes a mistake and then that takes both of you out, but on the other hand, as you say, if Monteiro is going to have a last lap lunge, then if the door's open and Muller is all over the curbs and with dirt on the tyres, be ready to try and snaffle something away as well.
Somebody's lost a part of their car back there.
Yeah.
Must be one of the guys further down the grid.
Didn't look like anything very substantial. Looked like a sort of
piece of carbon or
black plastic bag or something. There is a bit of litter on the circuit. It's getting a bit blowy this morning again. Not particularly windy, but enough. And of course, like a tube train coming through a station, cars going between these narrow walls create a vortex, and that helps to draw debris onto the track. Well, there's the brains trust at Yas. At the moment, though, it looks as though Honda are going to end up with 4th, 5th and 6th. Citroën with 2nd and 3rd. And and Tom Coronel is a lap and a bit away from me not saying things that I shouldn't say until they happen. Coronel, 19 laps completed now, out of 21 in this opening race in Marrakesh. I'm going to have to go, you watch the action, I'm going to have a quick look back.
Lopez seems to have got that Teflon coating that Muller's had for so many years, hasn't he? You know, like, things just seem to fall into his lap and work his way. I mean, who would have predicted that from starting where he started to be up in the second place and without actually having to overtake anyone, just relying on other people's misfortune?
Well, they did make a good start, both the Citroën drivers, but as you say, you know, 4 of the top 6 in front of him were taken out or took each other out in incidents, so it did sort of fall his way. Critically for him, of course, doesn't matter so much that Ivan is second, but that there's another car between him and Thiago, his closest rival, and then several more between him and Bernani in 9th, who's his second closest rival in the championship. Ivan, of course, not even his 3rd closest rival in points at the moment. Whoa! And Coronel very, very slow off the corner. Is this a penultimate lap opportunity for Lopez? Yeah, okay, fantastic. Shall we see the cars? There they are. Wow! And Lopez into 11, barely able to stop the car. Just got a little bit of Coronel. Tommy knew that was coming, didn't he? Because Lopez was so close.
He'd gone defensive as well, hadn't he?
Yeah. Okay, 2 more kilometres for Tom Coronel. 12 more corners, 11 more corners. 10 more corners, and Lopez, I think, took the warning out of that, didn't he?
Yeah.
That actually, a lap from the end, he nearly put the leader in the wall and himself in the sin bin.
Yeah.
And handed a race to Muller and a second place, more importantly, to Thiago. And if that had been the case, Lopez would have finished out on the points, Thiago would have got 18 points, he would be our championship leader had that happened. So again, you know, you're playing devil's advocate here. If you're Lopez, you want to race, you want to win this, but you want the points ahead of Thiago much more than the 5 or 7 extra points you're going to get if you get by Coronel.
Yeah, you're right, that was it. He'll have taken heed from that warning and thought, you know, I can sit here, second's ideal, that's great for me.
Last chance, is he going to have a run at Coronel here? There's Roberto Ravaglia and the ROIAL Motorsport team. 2 corners left into turn 11. Coronel has the lead, and unless he puts it in the wall out of the final corner, he will take victory here in the opening race in Marrakesh, a circuit that has always treated him badly. It's his first win since 2012. Tom Coronel victorious on the streets of Marrakesh, and a drag race for 3rd. Ivan Muller gets it ahead of Thiago Montero by 0.3 of a second. Montero 4th, Michelis 5th, Huff 6th, Tarquini 7th, Chilton and Bernani 8th and 9th. What happened on the last lap? They were 9th and 10th before. So who did we miss? No, we didn't. That had happened obviously beforehand. Oh, I know, it was when Valente came into the pits and Katzberg came into the pits. So delight for Pauline Zwart, and delight, I'm sure, for the whole ROIAL Motorsport team, for Tom Coronel. Well, that was a race that I don't think he had a game plan for, but Harry, you know, when life hands you the lead, you've got to hang on to it with both hands.
Yeah, and he's been quick all weekend, like we said, Sector 2, he's been awesome through, and he thoroughly deserves a win there, so hats off to Coronel.